Huiju is an ambitious woman who's willing to risk everything to rise above her status. However, everything changes when she traps herself in a contract marriage with the most powerful man in the kingdom. Now, what starts as a perfect plan slowly falls apart as the two get way too close and can't stop themselves from falling for each other. The story follows Huiju, a brilliant and ambitious young woman from a wealthy family in a society where the monarchy still holds power. Despite excelling at the top of her class, she's constantly looked down on for not being of noble birth. Determined to prove herself, Huiju becomes fiercely competitive, willing to do whatever it takes to come out on top. In contrast to Huiju, there is Aeon, the Grand Prince of the kingdom, born into royalty, yet he drifts through life with nothing to strive for. One day, Huiju gets invited to the king's birthday and shows up in red, which is basically royal disrespect, but Huiju lives for chaos and clout. Naturally, everyone still eats it up, and her outfit sells out instantly. At the party, people gossip about her illegitimate status, but Huiju shuts it down fast, showing them why she's infamous. After arguing with her good-for-nothing brother, Taeju, Huiju has to sit at the back courtesy of her commoner status. Soon, Aeon arrives fashionably late and in the wrong outfit, making the queen, Yurong, annoyed. Huiju later bumps into her only noble friend, Jungwoo, the prime minister, while Aeon later begs Jungwoo to help him dodge marriage like it's a plague. Later, Huiju gets lost in the palace and runs into Aeon, and it turns out they attended the same school, but Huiju cannot stand him because he easily got the privileges she only dreams of. A sudden fire in the king's quarters interrupts their reunion, and Aeon rushes to the scene, traumatized since his older brother, King Seonjeong, literally died the same way. As soon as Queen Yurong arrives, she blames Aeon and slaps him, but the next moment, the king, Yiyun, appears unharmed. The following day, Yurong apologizes for slapping Aeon, but she feels no remorse as she detests how his presence as the Grand Prince overshadows her son, the king. But Aeon has to be the regent because his nephew Yiyun is too young. Aeon is tired of everyone telling him to hide his light, especially his father, who always changed his title just to teach him never to stand in his brother's way. Now, Yurong is doing the same thing by trying to make Aeon marry an unremarkable woman of her choice. Elsewhere, Huiju's dad tries to set her up with the most forgettable man alive so she won't compete for the inheritance with her useless brother. However, Huiju refuses to be controlled, especially not by Taeju and his delusional wife, Dayang. A few days later, Aeon decides to leave the palace to clear his head, and on the way, runs into Yurang's annoying father, Inpyeong. Afterwards, Yurong vents to Inpyeong about Aeon overshadowing the throne. Elsewhere, Huiju scans Temu for an eligible bachelor befitting her status. But when she finds none, she gets the brilliant idea to marry Aeon and secure that nobility upgrade. She then sends several applications to visit him, but Aeon rejects them all, until she reapplies as his junior alumnus, and he instantly approves her request to meet. That night, she arrives at his residence and casually proposes a contract marriage. Unfortunately, Aeon isn't fazed by her request because he receives marriage proposals even in his dreams. Huiju explains that she's different and further lists out her strengths, which mostly consist of money, beauty, and her crazy brain. At the same time, Yurong meets up with Jaegyeong, whom she plans to set up with Aeon. Meanwhile, Aeon rejects Huiju's proposal because he wants to marry for love. But that doesn't faze Huiju because she always gets what she wants, no matter the cost. She then orders a full investigation into Aeon's schedule, and then starts popping up everywhere he goes like a very determined ghost. At some point, Aeon begins to dread Huiju's appearance. One day, Huiju goes to Aeon's art gallery for the blind date set by her family, but she almost makes her date cry because of his fragile ego. Seeing that Huiju's ambition is too much for him to handle, he immediately rejects her on the spot. However, Aeon's aide, Heon, sees her on the date and reports to Aeon, who is a little jealous about it. When Heon expresses his satisfaction that Huiju is not one of the queen's people, Aeon lets him know that there's no way a drama queen like Huiju can collude with Yurong, who is drunk on nobility. Elsewhere, Yurong reminisces about her husband and how he tried to abdicate the throne. Back then, she threw a fit and wished him dead, and after their argument, a fire broke out in his quarters, ultimately sending him to the afterlife. But she's not the only one who has trouble sleeping because of the incident, as Aeon also suffers from nightmares because of it. The following day, Yurang prepares Yiyun for an award event that Aeon will not be attending. She sees this as an opportunity for her son to shine. Meanwhile, Aeon is worried about Yiyun because he's too young for all the responsibilities forced on him, yet he decides not to attend the event so Yurong doesn't blame him again for Elsewhere, Huiju prepares to attend the same event, but her secretary, Haejong, instructs her not to dress like a peacock seeking attention. Meanwhile, Yi-yoon is treated like trash by his aides until Aeon arrives and scolds him. Yi-yoon had called him because he was scared, and now he's so happy when he sees Aeon. As Yi-yoon steps onto the stage, the flickering lights almost make him cave, but Aeon takes his hand, giving him courage. When Huiju is invited to receive her award, she takes the opportunity to hit on Aeon as usual. After the awards, she flaunts the hat given to her like an expensive Brazilian weave, even when Jong-woo takes her to a high-end restaurant to treat her to a celebratory meal. Embarrassed, Jong-woo urges her to take it off, and she does after a little persuasion. It soon becomes clear that Jong-woo is into Huiju, and it has been that way since their school days. Elsewhere, Hyun panics as Aeon comes down with a fever. However, Aeon doesn't want him to call a doctor because the queen might find out and turn it into a big deal to push for his marriage again. Later, Aeon runs into Huiju, who is also staying at the same hotel, and asks for her help. Huiju then calls her family's doctor and afterwards begs him not to tell anyone about Aeon. Back in the palace, Yurang is furious with the king for calling Aeon to the event. She especially hates how her son's cowardliness reminds her of her late husband's. At the hotel, Huiju and Hyun are enjoying a sandwich when Hyun gets the news about the queen's arrival. He tries to stop her, but Yurang barges inside. Luckily, she doesn't see Huiju. Yurang's face turns to mush when Aeon appears in a robe, giving her a glimpse of his 10 packs. Unfortunately, on her way out, Yurang notices Huiju's purse and rushes back into the bedroom to find her there. The following day, things begin to turn in Huiju's favor after the news of her late-night rendezvous somehow spreads. A picture of the doctor was captured, making everyone speculate about her pregnancy for Aeon. Huiju is excited about the news because clout is what she lives for. However, Queen Yurang is not too thrilled as she hates anything or anyone who tramples on her precious royal dignity. Haejong scolds Huiju as this might draw trouble, but Huiju is unconcerned because her skin is thicker than a dragon's. Later, Aeon meets with Huiju at his residence and apologizes for making her face criticism. When he asks what she wants as compensation, Huiju presents her marriage proposal again. She asks Aeon to marry her and help her defeat her brother for the inheritance. In exchange, she promises to be Aeon's shield and help him clear all obstacles. She explains that her brother is incompetent, but their father will choose him as a successor because he's a legitimate child who married a noble woman. Aeon agrees to her proposal, but reminds her that she's about to become public enemy number 1. After their agreement, Aeon takes Huiju to the palace to establish their relationship, causing a frenzy. On their way, Aeon is forced to stop by the queen's palace alone, where she demands he deny the dating rumors. However, Aeon firmly declares that he has no intention of doing that. After his meeting, Aeon returns to his room to find Huiju giving the king junk food. He harshly scolds her for being reckless, as that might give the queen more ammunition. Afterwards, he informs her that the queen rejected their request to date. Huiju then asks who he would choose if she were to fight with the queen. Aeon assures her that he will obviously pick her side as they need to appear madly in love. That night, Aeon and Huiju share a room to sell their dating ring. However, they turn it into a royal rumble, causing the palace attendants to think they're engaging in extracurriculars. The following day, Huiju happily heads to work in the same outfit to let the world know she spent the night at the palace. Later, Jung-woo visits Huiju to ask about her relationship with Aeon. Huiju assures him that they're in love and begs him to help get her marriage approved. Unfortunately, the queen decides to take a sick leave, and when Aeon learns about this, he realizes it's her ploy to delay his marriage. At the same time, Huiju is egged by Aeon's fans, but she puts them in their place. After taking down one obstacle, Huiju is faced with her father, Hyunggook's sudden visit, and he reminds her of her stepmother's death anniversary. This is because her stepmother suffered a heart attack and died on the first day Huiju suddenly reunited with her father. Ever since then, Hyunggook has been wary of her, especially how she competes for everything her brother has. Hyunggook warns her not to fight for her brother's inheritance, but Huiju remains defiant even when he threatens to disown her. That night, Aeon calls to check on her, but Huiju is too moody to talk, so he suddenly shows up at her house to cheer her up, leaving Huiju stunned. Aeon is visibly worried when he learns that she was egged by fans, so he immediately moves her into his private residence. Huiju makes sure to cling to him like gum to convince the attendants that they're madly in love. Later, Huiju asks Aeon why he agreed to marry her, and he explains that it's because she's the only one who wouldn't condemn him if he tries to use following day, Yurong sends officials to storm Huiju's room and workplace, accusing her of arson during the king's birthday. She tries to call Aeon, but can't reach him because he's busy with the ancestral rites, so she calls Haejung to find him at all costs. However, Huiju's steward, Youngwoo, informs her that they need a token to enter the shrine. Huiju recalls stealing Aeon's token from high school and immediately gives it to Youngmoon so that he can help Haejung access the shrine. After gaining access to the shrine, Haejung disguises herself to meet with Hyeon since she can't reach Aeon. Meanwhile, Huiju is taken into the palace, but just before she can be questioned, Aeon arrives. He tries to use his authority to stop the investigation, but the queen suddenly stops him. Even though Aeon explains that he was with her on the day of the fire, Yurong doesn't care and makes it clear that she just wants to ruin Huiju's reputation. Huiju then pretends to collapse, and Aeon uses the opportunity to take her away. Afterwards, he assures her that the queen will not pursue the bogus claim anymore, as that might tarnish her reputation. However, Huiju lets him know that her reputation is already in the mud, because the palace attendants are a news network on their own. Just as she predicted, rumors spread, turning the queen into a wicked pariah, and she's furious when it reaches her ears. While sending Huiju back to the residence, Aeon opens the car door to fuel the rumors about their love. After returning to the residence, Huiju can't stop thinking about how Aeon scooped her up in front of everyone. Later, Aeon calls to inform her that she'll be under the protection of the royal guard even though they're not married. Since this is a ploy to fuel the rumors about their love story more, Huiju decides to take it further by sneaking out to visit Aeon in the palace. Aeon and Huiju climb over the roof like lovesick fools, and as Aeon gets carried away in the moment, he suddenly kisses her. Huiju is taken aback by the sudden kiss, until Aeon explains that a paparazzi is watching them. So she asks Aeon for more so that they can get her good side. The next morning, the pictures of their late-night meeting spread, forcing the cabinet to meet to discuss Aeon and Huiju's relationship. Everyone disagrees with the relationship except Jungwoo, but he makes it clear that it should be strictly dating and not marriage. Aeon accepts the little win even though he was gunning for them to approve his marriage to Huiju. Jungwoo also makes Aeon move back to the palace since Huiju will be staying at his private residence. Yurong is furious when she learns that their relationship was approved, but Impyeong blames her for making a move against Huiju, which only helped her. He warns her to stay out of it and promises to handle Huiju without getting his hands dirty. Huiju is not too pleased when she learns that their relationship was approved with no marriage in sight. She figures that the cabinet did this to make her relationship with Aeon fizzle out like an uncooked sausage. So, she decides to fuel the rumors more by going out with Aeon. Later, Youngmoon dresses Huiju up in my grandmother's tablecloth, almost making Aeon gag. Huiju decides to just dress casually, and Aeon immediately approves of it. She then takes him to watch a baseball match, where they run into Jungwoo at the stadium. Shortly afterwards, Aeon and Huiju are caught in a kiss cam, but Huiju politely declines because royals are supposed to observe decorum. After the game, the royal guard surrounds them, preventing Huiju from being the center of attention. Jungwoo then invites her for a meal alone, since Ian, as royalty, has a lot of restrictions on where he can eat. However, Ian forces himself in as a third wheel. At the restaurant, he refuses to eat because royals are not supposed to eat any raw food, reminding Ian about all the rules forced on him, especially by his father. Huiju is fed up with all the rules, and Jungwoo advises her to give up on marrying Aeon. But raw fish is the last thing that can keep Huiju from achieving her lifelong dream of status. That night, Court Lady Jin-suk scolds Eon for going to the baseball match, so she takes permission from him to teach Huiju about court etiquette. But the following morning, Huiju completely ignores Jin-suk and manages to escape. Later, Aeon calls her about it, and Huiju agrees to take the lessons when she returns home. Elsewhere, Taejun is jealous that Huiju is moving up the social ladder, but his wife Daeyoung reminds him that it's a good thing. Because once Huiju marries the prince, she can't fight him for the inheritance, as royals aren't allowed to engage in economic activities. Elsewhere, Haejung asks Huiju about her sports car and learns that it was taken for repairs after some mysterious person rammed into it. The moment Huiju returns home, Jin-suk immediately begins lecturing her on royal etiquette. But as usual, Huiju hijacks the lesson, turning it into a compulsory Pilates session. A few moments later, Aeon arrives, and she rushes into his arms, begging him to save her. Aeon agrees and tells Jin-suk to return to the palace. The following day, during her lessons, Huiju learns that after Aeon's mother died, his father passed away shortly after, and then his brother. She pretends to cry and uses it as an excuse to skip class. Afterwards, she reads about the cause of their death and finds it suspicious because Aeon's mother died in a car accident, his father died of a sudden heart attack, and his brother died in a fire. Feeling bad for Aeon, Huiju calls him, but he's too busy forcing himself to attend a blind date set up by the queen. However, Aeon turns it against her and coldly rejects his date before storming off. After the meeting, Aeon calls Huiju, and she comforts him, assuring him that she'll always be on his side no matter what. But he simply cuts the call, leaving Huiju puzzled. However, Aeon is touched by her words and immediately decides to return to his private residence. Elsewhere, Jungwoo picks the king up from school, and as he watches other kids move freely, Yiyun wishes he could simply be one of them. He then asks Jungwoo to take him to Aeon's private residence, where Huiju is busy destroying all their ceramic plates because of her etiquette lessons. Afterwards, she commends Yiyun for playing hooky and decides to play with him. Elsewhere, Daeong is mocked by Aeon's blind date, Jae-gyeong, for marrying a commoner wimp like Taejun. But Daeong reminds her that her place as the Grand Prince's wife has been stolen by Huiju. Meanwhile, Yiyun enjoys several games with Huiju, Jungwoo, and the attendants, after which he demands a ride in Huiju's sports car. At first, they refuse, but after much persuasion, Jungwoo agrees. Huiju drives the king while Jungwoo discreetly follows behind. Unfortunately, Huiju's brakes suddenly fail, causing her to speed dangerously through a busy road. Thankfully, Aeon suddenly appears in front of her to slow down her car a bit before blocking her path to completely stop the car. After learning about the incident, Yuren rushes to the royal hospital, where the king, Aeon, and Huiju were rushed to keep things under wraps. Yurong is furious when she learns that the king was in Huiju's vehicle, but Jungwoo stops her from causing trouble, as that might alert the public about the king's involvement. As soon as he wakes up, Yiyun visits Huiju and apologizes, but Huiju assures him that he's not to blame. She panics when she learns about Aeon's surgery and rushes into his room to check on him, but he gently pats her head, catching Huiju off guard. The next day, Huiju is accused of driving recklessly, and this causes the company's stock price to plummet. Haejung wants Huiju to release a statement, but Huiju refuses, explaining that the king was in her car. Haejung is furious to hear this because Huiju has to be the scapegoat. Jungwoo overhears them talking about Huiju's sham marriage, so he asks her to marry him instead. After she's discharged, Huiju discovers that Aeon left the hospital without telling her. She realizes he must have overheard her conversation with Jungwoo after Haejung reveals that she saw him in front of Huiju's room earlier. The moment she arrives at his private residence, Huiju is kicked out by Aeon, but he refuses to answer her calls, and he had overheard her talking with Jungwoo. The following day, Aeon agrees to see Huiju, and on her way, she runs into the queen, who seems oddly satisfied after speaking to Aeon. When Huiju meets Aeon, she asks if he heard her talking to Jungwoo, but he denies it and informs her that someone messed with the brakes of her car. He then calls off their marriage, explaining that it's because she doesn't respect rules. Afterwards, Huiju meets up with her father and brother as they chew her out for the accident. Hyungkook already found out that Huiju was thrown out of Aeon's residence, but Huiju ignores him and storms out. She then instructs Haejung to investigate the shop where her car was repaired. Meanwhile, Hyun asks Aeon why he broke up with Huiju, and Aeon explains that it's to keep her alive because his mother also died in an accident, and he couldn't protect her. He made up his mind to protect Huiju by keeping her away from the palace. It turns out Jungwoo met with Aeon and asked him to let Huiju go for her protection. Aeon decides to give Huiju a parting gift by inviting her to the inner court banquet, an event where only top nobles gather. Aeon sends Hyun to give Huiju the invitation and a traditional dress for the event, but she rejects it. Aeon is disappointed because he got the invitation from the queen after she heard that they were breaking up. Aeon then tells Hyun to invite Huiju to the palace so that he can convince her himself, but she refuses to see him. For the next couple of days, Huiju refuses Aeon's invitations and calls, leaving him frustrated. Later on, Huiju learns that the dude who tampered with her car is missing, so she tells Haejung to check the surveillance of the convenience store in front of the shop. That night, Aeon sends Huiju a message to meet up, and she agrees. When they finally meet, she scolds him for breaking their engagement, but Aeon explains that it's for her protection. Huiju calls him a coward, and to demonstrate how he's supposed to protect someone, she almost shoots an arrow at his precious cat. But before she can, Aeon stops her, injuring himself in the process. Huiju lets him know that he needs to fight back to protect what he loves instead of hiding in the shadows like he always does. At the office, Haejung and her team finally find a picture of the culprit and realize he used their company's banking application to pay at the store. Huiju then asks Taejun to help her find the guy since he's in charge of their banking subsidiary. Taejun instantly agrees to help after learning that the dude tried to murk Huiju. Elsewhere, Jungwoo thinks about his conversation with Huiju after he asked her to marry him. She refused his offer because her scandals could cost him his job, but it's different for Aeon, who will remain royalty for life. Meanwhile, Aeon can't stop thinking about Huiju, so he calls her, asking her to attend the event, after which he apologizes for not keeping his promise. The following day, Hyun visits Huiju to tell her the rules of the banquet since she has decided to attend. But the rules only pisses Huiju off as she learns that she has to stand at the back of the procession because she has no rank in court. That night, Aeon invites Huiju for a stroll, but she walks behind him to practice the rules and complains that it's hard for her because she's usually the trendsetter. The following day, everyone arrives for the inner court banquet while Huiju prepares to be fashionably late as usual. After their stroll last night, Aeon had asked her to teach him how to walk ahead because he's only used to walking behind, and Huiju told him to walk beside her. Meanwhile, Taeju finally finds the culprit who messed with Huiju's car. Unfortunately, he's dead. At the banquet, Queen Yeorong soon arrives, after which Huiju makes her grand entrance in a white suit instead of the required traditional attire. When the press asks Huiju why she arrived after the queen, she smugly explains that she got lost in the palace. However, Yeorong can tell it's to make a mockery of her, but she tries to keep her cool. During the procession, Yurang realizes that Huiju is sweating from the hot sun, so she happily decides to extend the walk. Unfortunately, her plan for revenge is crushed when Aeon makes his way to the front hand in hand with Huiju, breaking all protocols. Later that night, Huiju prepares for the banquet while the king also gets ready without his mother's knowledge because Aeon asked him to keep it a secret. After Yeorong arrives at the banquet grounds, Huiju and Aeon make their grand entrance like Cinderella and Prince Charming. Yeorang is over the moon and even allows them to dance alone, as it's supposed to be Huiju's last royal show. But after the dance, Aeon takes everyone by surprise, including Huiju, as he proposes to her with his mother's ring. Huiju accepts, and they ask the king for his blessings, leaving Yeorang stunned. She signals for Yeon to say no, but he ignores her, publicly giving them his blessings. Jungwoo is frustrated by the sudden turn of events, while Yeorang begs him to use his veto power to vote against it, but he tells her that he will never contradict the crown. After they return to the banquet, Aeon and Huiju decide to divide and conquer. Aeon asks Yeorong for a dance, as she lets him know that he'll never get her blessing. But Aeon reveals that he knows how she hid the truth about his brother's will to give the throne to him and not her son. Meanwhile, as Huiju and Jungwoo dance, Huiju begs Jungwoo to support her marriage. During a dance exchange, Yeorong realizes that Jungwoo has feelings for Huiju. Jungwoo then promises to stand on Huiju's side as long as she never hides anything from him again. After the banquet, Aeon and Huiju celebrate their first victory, and while caught up in the moment, Aeon finds himself drawn to Huiju. Afterwards, they meet with Haejung and Hyun to talk about their next strategy. Elsewhere, Daeyoung and Taejun celebrate becoming in-laws with the royal family, but Taejun is worried for Huiju's safety. The following day, Impyeong confronts Yeorong about the proposal, but she tells him to let it go because Aeon knows that they changed the king's will. She explains that Huiju has become Aeon's weakness, so keeping her close is a good thing. Elsewhere, Hyungwook is worried about Huiju's safety, so he tells Daeyoung to call her family and find a way to plant people in the palace to watch out for Huiju. Afterwards, Daeyoung and Taeju visit Huiju to butter her up so that she can give them her company. But Huiju immediately shuts them down, after which they inform her about the death of the dude who sabotaged her car. But Huiju is only furious that someone murked the guy before she could. Later, Huiju goes for an interview where all she does is flaunt her ring instead of responding to the questions, but Aeon is ecstatic when he sees the interview. That night, she returns to Aeon's private residence, where the attendants happily welcome her. Later, a maid named Arian tries to unpack Huiju's luggage, but Haejung stops her because she's a spy for the queen. It turns out, Huiju had refused to move back to the residence, but Haejung agreed to it for Huiju's safety. She also offered to move in with her when she learned about the queen's spy. The following day, Huiju heads to the palace to discuss her wedding, and Aeon is excited about her visit, but his excitement vanishes when he learns that she came with Jungwoo. Fed up with Jungwoo getting too cozy with Huiju, Aeon reminds him to maintain his distance. However, Jungwoo reveals that he knows that their marriage is a sham. After Jungwoo leaves, Aeon confronts Huiju about it, and as their argument escalates, they decide to sign a confidentiality agreement. Just then, Yurong arrives, causing them to hide the contract and pretend to be all over each other. She then invites them to have dinner with her, but when she offers Huiju booze, Ian blocks it. However, Huiju accepts the challenge, and while drunk, Yurang reminds Aeon how his father treated him like trash to keep him from surpassing his brother. She also blames him for the late king's death, but Aeon doesn't fight back. Fed up with the queen, Huiju respectfully storms out of the dinner, pulling Aeon with her. Outside, Huiju tells Aeon to be patient and promises to clear all the obstacles for him once they get married. Aeon is happy to hear this because no one has ever stood by his side, so he tells her to take him away from the palace. Huiju then takes Aeon to her cruise ship to cheer him up and give him the Titanic experience. While playing Jack and Rose, they suddenly fall onto the deck, and as Aeon locks lips with Huiju, they passionately exchange fluids. Thanks for sticking till the end, and to find out if Huiju can tie the knot with her Prince Charming, make sure to comment the crown.